Well, obviously we didn't get done what we wanted to get done this past weekend on the football field. We had an incredible night, had an incredible crowd, probably the most recruits we've ever had here, and the reality is we didn't get the thing done. And we had about everything go wrong that possibly could have gone wrong. Really, if you really, as we go back and break it down and really look at it, offensively we turned the ball over on the second play of the game. Defensively, I think we had 4 penalties on 3rd or 4th down that led to first downs that in turn led to touchdowns. And then special teams wise, we turned the ball over twice, one on a kickoff, one kind of crazy one that hit you on a punt, all of which led to touchdowns. So that makes it really, really difficult to overcome some of those things. And that's kind of the situation we're in right now. You know, we're trying to find ways to generate momentum and create some energy. Everything we do, whether it's in here on a Monday practice, whether it's on a Tuesday practice, which we'll have today, everything is about energy and creating it and creating that momentum. And right now, it's really difficult on Saturdays when we get ourselves behind. Now, what it does create, it creates some fighters and it creates some toughness. When you go down and you have those bad things happen to you and your guys are kind of getting calloused and toughened up and you see them continue to fight, that's great. There's great things for a program to learn how to do and to continue to challenge yourself and continue to see them scratch and claw and fight. But at some point in time, we want to not just say, hey, play from a 14-point lead, like kind of like we start every game with a 14-point deficit. We're not saying that, but even just be able to play with some energy and momentum. Football's a game of momentum. And if you don't have it, you got to find a way to get it. Right now, we have a hard time creating it. So, you know, whether it was Austin Peay, whether it was Miami, Ohio, we win a Miami, Ohio game because we're tough and we fight through things and we continue to scratch and claw, and those things help build what it is that we're doing. But at some point in time, we keep kind of trying to say, hey, when can we play with some positive energy and not just having to always feed off of and play off of the negative energy. So we look at it in the positives we can. Hey, it's developing some toughness in our guys. It's developing some of that fight and that grit that we really stressed throughout the entire winter and the things that we're going to do to have to win football games. But really for us, we've got to find a way to generate some of those positives, some of that momentum. And I mean that more on Saturdays so that we can play with that positive outlook and that positive energy. So.
Questions?
Do you get concerned at not having that momentum and always playing from behind, kind of wear your guys down?
Yeah, and I think you saw a little bit of that. I mean, obviously the time of possession was huge, almost 40 to 20. It really makes it difficult. You can revert back when things go the other direction to things that you've done in the past. And I don't want to say we're doing that by any means, but it is. It's draining. It's some difficult stuff that when you're always scratching and clawing and fighting out of the. And we as coaches and coaching staff got to look at that too. Even the way we practice and the way we're doing things and the way we're attacking these next few games and say, okay, you know, it's one thing when we've created some momentum and had some positive energy, but it's another thing when that game could be like almost 2 games because they are scratching and clawing and fighting, but they're fighting from so much behind that it is draining.
They've also had, like, if you go back to last season, accumulation of, they've lost a lot of games in the last calendar year.
Yeah.
How does that affect you?
It affects the psyche of any 18 to 22-year-old. It affects the psyche of anybody. And that's one of those big things when you come in the locker room after the game or when you sit in here on a Monday that you tell these guys and you kind of reiterate to them, say everything that you fight for, you got to continue to fight for it. And you can't revert back to the ways in which you did things. When things start to go wrong, when things go bad, well, the natural tendency is to go back and do the things that you've done in the past. You know, whatever those things are. I know as a team and as a program and as an individual, we can't allow ourselves to do that.
You mean things that didn't work?
Things that didn't work. Whether you lose a football game, your mind starts to wander, and then what do you do? Whether it's a 42-year-old man or it's a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 21-year-old, or 22-year-old senior, you start to think back and they say it. They've worked so darn hard that oh goodness sakes, we have the same results, and those things start to mess with your mind as opposed to, hey, it's a part of the process. We got to continue to fight. We got to continue to scratch and claw. Don't revert to what you've done in the past. And again, over and over and over. And I mean that in how you continue to move forward, what you do to handle stress as an 18 to 22-year-old, everything about it that we got to make sure. And that's why we focus as a coaching staff. It's not just about going out there on Tuesday and putting in a great game plan. We better spend more time with our guys. We better go eat with them. We better open our eyes. We better listen. Just like your own kids, when they're going through some struggles and some tough times, the last thing they need is somebody not to be watching and looking at all the little things that they do and trying to sense where they are more emotionally and mentally than anything else we do.
Hayden has taken every snap at quarterback. Do you stick with him? How long do you stick with him?
Yeah, there was a point in the time there that we were going to give Ross an opportunity on Saturday just because of the way it was, but he had missed a month of basically 2 weeks of camp, the first 2-3 weeks of the season, and to put him in there in a situation where it's really, really difficult. I don't mean it's difficult in the sense that he can't come back, but you're down so much. They're obviously playing much different. They don't have to respect some things based on the situation, and to throw him in there for his first time this year, where they're able to all-out blitz and do what it is that they want to do without having to throw caution into the wind because they're up and leaving. We didn't feel like it was the right time to give him that opportunity.
Is there a chance he might jump in there at some point?
Yeah, there's a chance. I mean, again,
what would provoke that?
Basically how the game's going, but also how practice goes. We do evaluations on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as well. And you can you get a good sense when guys are completely locked in, and you feel like as a coach, if you got an opportunity for a guy to give you a chance, to give you a spark, to give you momentum, but you also don't want it to go the other way too. So there's a balance there. It's not just, well, we're down and this guy's not doing a great job. All of a sudden you throw somebody else in, and you really can kind of mess with a lot of different things. There's a lot more to it than just, hey, let's put him in and see if he can do it, as opposed to saying, hey, if we're going to do this, we've got to have a plan. There's got to be a reason for it.
Hayden had a really good game against Navy, and it kind of seemed like he may have turned the corner a little bit. Do you think he reverted last week?
No, we got to just do a better job. We got to put him in some situations to help him out. We got to be able to run the football. I know all in all, and he would stand up here and say it to himself, the start of the second play of the game on the turnover is something that's really hard. It's really difficult to overcome. We should have been able to overcome it. We get a stop and we get the ball back and we're in great shape, but we get a turnover and then they get 2 penalties on third down and they end up taking the ball 70 yards and scoring a touchdown. And how we handle those things and move forward is what we got to do better. So he would stand there and know that was a poor decision, started him off on a poor foot, and then it's how to battle through that thing to get your adrenaline, get your momentum back, and get your mind back.
Khalil Lewis, he was helped off the field the other night. What is his?
We don't know. When we're going out to practice today, he had a bruise. I don't know if they even. I don't know. The doctors could tell you that. I think he had a bruised knee, but I don't foresee it being anything that would be lasting.
Brian Wright
hurt his shoulder. We don't know. Today, Tuesday practice, we'll get a little bit better feel. I don't know that we'll have him on Tuesday. We'll see how he feels on Wednesday. All those guys that are dinged up and a little bit injured, we got to find what gives us the best opportunity. We don't want to put them out there and put them in harm's way because I think whether it was Mike Boone, he was a little bit more healthy this past week. We had a plan to give him a slight bit of reps, but the last thing I want is to put Mike out there where he can't truly, not just say he can't help our team, but he can't protect himself. And when you're a little bit dinged up and you're not quite going like you should go, that's when other things happen. So, as much as we want him out there, as much as we want to put him out there, and as much as we need him, we got to do what's right and smart for ourselves and for them as well.
You're not playing a team this week that would be easy to bounce back again. They've been statistically dominant. I like the way I phrase it. How do you handle what they're going to throw at you?
Go back to work. Fortunately, I have seen a little bit of this, a couple times in playing Oregon and similar offensively. But again, they've done a great job. They've got skill all over the place. They've got a quarterback that's done a really good job. They've upgraded from what I watched last year. A lot of the skilled defense with some big defensive linemen and things. You're right. It poses another challenge, and it poses a bigger challenge for us. Probably as big a challenge as we've had the entire season. But that's what we got to do. Throw it on the shoulders of every one of us. it's not going to be done by one guy. It's not like Hayden Moore's going to go out there and say, you know what, if he has a great game, he's going to lead us to victory. No. There's got to be 22 guys out there, 11 at a time, that are really going to have to hone in, really have to, do their job and play with some energy and create some things. And we can't continue to wait for somebody else to generate the momentum. I think that's sometimes the thing is, if we can just get some momentum. Well, you know what? You're right. There was a couple balls in that game on Saturday night that were tipped early in the game and go right over the shoulder of maybe one of our guys on defense. You're like, wow, that thing would have been, 14 more, 10 inches to the left, and we'd have got a hand on it. That thing was going back 6, but it didn't. So we have to find a way, whether it's Central Florida or whoever it is that we're playing, to generate and make those plays when they're out there.
They haven't allowed a sack yet this year. That's so obviously they protect their quarterback really well.
And he does a great job at extending plays. He does a great job at not standing there. He's very mobile. You probably don't look down there and see as many rushing yards as you might think, but what he's done a better job of this year than last year, excuse me, is his ability to scramble to throw. Where last year I think when you watch him, he would scramble to run. This year he scrambles to throw. So he gives himself, and he really poses that tougher issue defensively that if you know he's going to take off and run, that now you can pin your ears back and try to go get it. But he does a really good job and has matured, and you see that his ability to scramble within the playoffs.
Now on the other side of the ball, they got a guy who I think is leading the conference in sacks. Did I read that wrong?
And they also have the returning defensive player of the year. I don't know if it's leading in sacks, but he's the returning defensive player of the year in the conference. And he's a very good football player. He plays the outside backer, he kind of plays a stand linebacker for him. I think his brother was a corner on the team last year, was drafted by the Broncos. Again, there's good talent. He's a really, really good football player. And I think they've upgraded some of the guys inside for him too. I think they go inside 315, 319, and 310 with their 3 down linemen. So big physical guys.
You alluded to coaching against Coach Frost in the, 2014. I'm not sure which game it was, but when you were at Ohio State. What makes that offense so difficult? Is it the tempo? Is it the formation? What do they do that puts defense?
Any offense or defense, the thing that starts with is players, and they've got a guy running the show, a quarterback that gives them an opportunity to be really successful because, he does what they need him to do. He can move. He's got a much better handle on the entire offense this year. They've got skill. They've got some running backs. They've got some slot backs. They kind of move some guys around, but they generate a lot of mismatch kind of situations, and they use the whole width of the field. Everybody uses, obviously, the length of the field. They do a really good job at using the width of the field. So they spread it, they create space and give their athletes opportunities. Everybody would think it's just the tempo. It's not just the tempo. The tempo adds to some of the things that they do and adds a lot to it, but really what it comes down to is having a guy that can control the show and guys with the abilities to make plays, and especially plays in space.
Terrell White saw a lot of time in that second half. Is that his progression where he's starting to be ready for more reps?
Yeah, he'll see more and more. I think he's done a good job. We're still hard on him and harping on him, and just like we said about Hayden and Ross, it still comes down to practice. And guys that perform better in practice and continue to work at their craft in practice and show it, well, the guys are going to get more opportunities on Saturdays. Some guys would like to tell you, well, I'm a gamer. There are no gamers here. We got to see it. Seeing is believing, and our ability to continue to practice better, is what we made a big emphasis on. I had a meeting on yesterday, and I showed them 3 clips from Thursday's practice, and then I showed 3 clips from Saturday's game, and we showed the exact look that we got. Showed the exact look on Thursday, and we did it, and then we showed the exact look on Saturday, and we don't do it. We do it wrong. So at some point in time, that translation from the practice field onto the game field is what we're fighting to get. And it didn't cost us. And that's the beautiful thing. It didn't cost us. So you could make a point that it didn't cost us yet. But there are things all over the place, whether it's as a linebacker, a defensive lineman, a quarterback. You could show the second play of the game to the offense. Hey, and he knows I did it twice on Thursday. There's the exact same look. But yet, why didn't I do it on Saturday? So that's where we're getting better. We're learning about each other. You know, and we're putting ownership on things. You know, we're putting ownership on things, and I think that's where our guys are starting to realize it's not like we're calling a guy out. We didn't call a guy out in front of the meeting. You know, we're trying to make sure they learn. We saw similar, not the same, in the Miami Ohio game. We have a chance to win the game because they return it. The kickoff, you know, when the guy fumbled it and went into the end zone, and then all of a sudden he returns it out and we knock him out on the 5-yard line. We show that as a group to the whole team. Talk about this. If you ever are going backwards, you do not bring that thing out. You know, just so that we can learn from other people's mistakes. You know, why do you study history? So we're not condemned to repeat it, right? And then what do we do? You know, not the same. We didn't drop it. Guys didn't drop it, but we go forward. We go back catching the ball. We hesitate, and then we bring it out. And then what happens? That's not why he turned it over. It's not like he meant to turn it over. But those kinds of things that we got to take the translation from learning not only from the mistakes that we made, learning from mistakes that other people make, and then not translating them onto Saturdays. That's where I think we got to continue to grow. And that's not pointing a finger. That has nothing to do with, and that's us as a program. That's us as coaches. You know, they're going to do what the things that we stress and the things that we put an emphasis on. And that's where we got to do a better job.
Anybody else?
All right, thank you.
Thanks.